These bright, narrow green leaves, they look like a grass, but they're actually a tree. Hi, I'm Lily, a botanist with the Florida Native Plant Society, and today we're going to discuss the unique life cycle shaped by fire of the longleaf pine. In October to late November, the large cones atop the tall longleaf pines open up and begin to release their seeds. You can see the seeds are situated at the base of the pine cone scales. Each seed has a papery appendage that catches the wind and twirls the seed down to the forest floor. Each seed is pretty large and it's filled with fats and lots of nutrients. You've probably eaten pine nuts before, and those are pine seeds that come from a different species. Wildlife also love to eat pine nuts, and they love the large longleaf pine nuts. The seeds that do make it past predation are able to germinate quickly right after the first rains. Within about a year, the seedling begins to resemble a clump of grass, and this is known as the grass stage. Longleaf typically stays in this grass stage for 1 to 7 years, although in rare instances they can stay for up to 20 years in the grass stage, depending on variables like competition, amount of sun, and amount of moisture. And they might look like they're not growing much, but they certainly are. They're growing in diameter, and they're putting down a deep taproot to access water in the very sandy, dry soils they occur in and to stabilize themselves. Why do this when other pine species don't have a grass stage? This stage is actually an adaptation to the frequent fires that are a critical component of the longleaf pine ecosystem. When we say frequent fires, we mean almost every single year. Most longleaf pine ecosystems have a return interval of 1 to 3 years, and these fires would have occurred during the growing season when lightning strikes are most common. As fire sweeps through the landscape, it's cooler down at the soil level, and the growing bud, which is sensitive to that high heat, is protected by the silvery scales and the dense needles, which may burn in the fire but quickly regrow. When the diameter of the stem reaches about 1 inch, the longleaf sapling begins to initiate height growth. This period of rapid growth is called the bottle brush stage because it kind of looks like a bottle brush or a cousin it during this time. It has rapid vertical growth. It doesn't spend any energy making branches because it wants to get above the hottest part of the fire as soon as possible. This growing tip bud is sensitive to fire and will die, the whole tree will die if it is exposed to the hottest part of the fire, which is usually a few feet above the ground. Once that growing bud reaches 6 to 10 feet above the soil level, it's mostly safe from death by fire. And so it begins to expend energy into the growth of lateral branches like these, and that signals the beginning of the sapling stage. During this stage, the trees grow about 3 feet per year. And after about 30 years, the trees reach the mature stage where they begin to produce fertile cones. During the mature stage, the lower limbs are typically shed or they're pruned by fire. And the trees can reach heights exceeding 100 feet in rich, moist soils, while they may remain much shorter in poorer, drier soils. After about 70 to 100 years, the trees stop growing in height, but they're still growing. They're growing in the diameter of their trunk, and they're growing in the diameter of those large lateral branches. After about 80 years, some trees are infected with red heart fungus, which causes the inner hardwood to soften and become spongy. And that is critical habitat for the federally endangered red-cockaded woodpecker to build its nest in. Remember that this is the longest lived of all of our pine species, with some individuals reaching up to 450 years old. You can spot these older longleaf because, as we mentioned, they stop growing taller at a certain stage at around 70 to 100 years, and they start putting their energy into the width of their trunk and the width of their large lateral branches. And so they have a distinct shape called flat top. And so you see right here is a tree that is older than its fellows around it. It has a flat top with thick lateral branches. It's also shorter than its fellows in this area, and that signals to me that this is a much older individual that occurred and matured here when there was less competition because there were more frequent fires when it reached maturity. It didn't have to grow tall to compete with its fellows because it didn't have many fellows, because of the frequent fires were taking out most of the other longleaf in the area. Thanks for joining us to learn about the unusual life cycle of longleaf pine. Next week, we'll be back to learn about this unique ecosystem they occur in.